Topsail Paradise has become a political battleground in this ongoing campaign, and the Liberals are hoping that the promise of an expensive new road will catapult their candidate into the House of Assembly.
This is what we wanted, this is what we needed, and it's finally coming to reality.
I'm Terry Roberts. I'll have that story coming up.
Tony Wakeham returned to town to repeat his trade promises, this time backed by a room full of support. That's coming up.
Do we keep spending on and adding on money to for the for-profit shelters, or do we start looking at investing in the not-for-profits who are focused on the individual as opposed to making a profit?
Well, the NDP spent the day promising to increase funding for shelters in the province.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. It's municipal election day in many parts of the province. On the West Coast, Cornerbrook will have a new mayor and a lot of new faces on council. Here and Now's Colleen Connors is live at Cornerbrook City Hall tonight. So Colleen, can you talk about the stakes of the Cornerbrook election?
Yes, of course. So I'm here in the lobby at City Hall, where in just a couple of hours, this place will be bopping with candidates and their supporters. This is a real hot spot on the night of an election. And you know, it was really busy in Cornerbrook today. I stopped by one of the bigger polling stations and you know, a lot of voters streaming through, lots of people popping by to cast their ballot. Voters here are choosing between Deputy Mayor Linda Chason and former councillor Pamela Gill for that top spot for mayor. And 15 people with a lot of new faces have put their names forward for the 6 available seats on council. Now, there are some former councillors who are also running as well, but by later tonight, we should know who's going to sit in those council chamber seats here at City Hall.
Colleen, so many interesting races happening across the province. Going to be a lot of new faces in different places. What else has stood out for you during this municipal campaign?
You're right, Carolyn. It's been such an interesting thing to watch. You know, in a lot of municipalities, former mayors are now running provincially, like here in Cornerbrook. So former Mayor Jim Parsons is now running for the Liberals, and former Mayor Charles Pender is running for the PCs. And of course, that's happening in other places as well, like Marystown. Former Mayor Brian Keating is running provincially. In Paradise, former Mayor Dan Bobbitt. And in St. John's, former Deputy Mayor Sheila O'Leary. Now, we also have seen some family members going head-to-head in this election. I'm sure that's pretty common in Newfoundland and Labrador. In Happy Valley Goose Bay, brothers-in-law Bert Pomeroy and Edward Blake Rakowski are running against one another for the mayor seat. And in the community of Peterview, incumbent Mayor Jim Sampson is fighting for his seat against his nephew and former Deputy Mayor Corey Sampson. And of course, Carolyn, in St. John's, things are a little bit different, of course. The postal workers' strike threw a wrench in the mail-in voting plans. And for the city, of course, the election has been moved to next week. But for here in Cornerbrook tonight, in just a couple of hours, this space will be filled with candidates and their supporters as they watch the results come in. And I'll be here, of course, to find out all the details and to see who wins. Live in Cornerbrook tonight, I'm Colleen Connors for Here and Now.
Well, now to the provincial election campaign. The Progressive Conservatives were in Mount Pearl to focus once again on trades workers. But this time, Wakeham didn't just promise support, he also received it. Here and Now's Henrika Wilhelm reports.
It's a long line of hands to shake, and those same hands have all gone up in support of him.
After reviewing the positions of the political parties, it is the consensus of our Executive Council of Business Managers that Trades NL fully endorses Tony Wakeham, the PC party and their candidates to form the next government of Newfoundland and Labrador.
It's after Trades NL put questions to all party leaders.
Our Premier chose not to answer the questions. And we haven't heard tell of the Liberal government at all. And we've been speaking with the Liberal government for months on end now. And in this election, we put the questions out. Tony Wakeham and the PC party came to the plate.
Our people want to stay, work, and play right here at home. Every day, we're hearing from our membership, expressing concern, real concern, wondering when the next job opportunity will start.
The endorsement is a significant win for Wakeham. While just one organization, it speaks for 14 unions, representing 14,000 workers across the province in over 50 trades. From plumbers and pipe fitters to iron workers, Wakeham vowed once more to bring work back to them and the province.
Every day of a PC government, you can count on us to be champions of tradespeople and champions of workers. Today, I want to make it clear that we will lead a pro-jobs government. And I reject anybody who says that Newfoundland and Labrador's days of building big things are behind us.
Rather, they're ahead, he says, and yet the announcement itself was more smoke than fire, with no new promises made. Instead, those from the past 2 weeks were repeated, with Beta Nord top of mind.
We want to do at least 70% of the topsides work. We set the benchmarks in the past at 64 and 68% on turnover and C-rolls, and we want to increase the work that we do here in the province, not decrease it.
We know the work could be done here because we've done it in the past. We know we have the workers to do the work. So why? What's the real reason why they're not doing the work here in Newfoundland and Labrador? And I look forward to sitting down with Equinor and making sure that whatever the issues are, whatever the barriers are, we get through them.
And while the union representatives in there were happy with Wakeham's promises for the industry, despite repeated questions, he could not be nailed down on a specific date for when the full party platform will be released. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Now, the NDP took aim at government spending on for-profit housing and shelters today. Leader Jim Dinn says if elected, he and his party would make sure more funding goes to not-for-profit shelters and affordable housing.
If we're putting all this money into for-profit shelters, then it comes down to repurposing that back into its staffing for not-for-profits, for whether it's the Irish Kirby House, whether they're on the front lines. And I will tell you, it's interesting, even I'm looking at not just the shelters, but I'm looking at whether it's the community centers, and they will tell you they have not had a cut. Government will say they have not cut, but they have not kept, the funding has not kept pace with inflation. So it amounts to a cut. It amounts to a strangulation of the services. So our plan then basically is, do we keep spending on and adding on money to for the for-profit shelters, or do we start looking at investing in the not-for-profits who are focused on the individual as opposed to making a profit?
Can you speak to me about the importance of transitional housing and the sad reality that we need so much of it?
The big key difference between a privatized model and a not-for-profit model comes down to the service that's being offered, and that comes in the form of staff. During my time working in the emergency shelter system, I've heard from a lot of different shelter guests that these privatized options often are not staffed. There's no supportive services, there's nothing offered in the way of wraparounds. And that's a glaring deficiency, because I think we can all agree that something like an emergency shelter is supposed to be a band-aid solution. It's not supposed to be something that we're using long term. And to me, that's the key difference.
Now to the Liberal campaign. The Liberals dropped a big announcement in Paradise today, hoping a major road infrastructure project will sway voters to their candidate. Here now Terry Roberts reports.
Traffic congestion and politics have intersected here in the hotly contested district of Topsail Paradise. And now the Liberals are promising an expensive road connection from Paradise to the Outer Ring Road if they're re-elected.
A cavernous warehouse was the setting Thursday morning for a major Liberal election promise, with leader John Hogan revealing this rendering of a road project that's meant to ease the horrendous traffic congestion in Paradise, and perhaps get this former mayor elected in a district that's firmly held by the incumbent, Progressive Conservative Paul Dinn.
This is what we wanted, this is what we needed, and it's finally coming to reality.
This is Topsail Road. It's the primary route in and out of Paradise. And even though it's not rush hour right now, as you can see, it's still extremely busy.
Paradise has grown rapidly, and despite some big investments over the years, the road network is still overwhelmed by the volume of vehicles. So the Liberals are promising this, a new $10 to $12 million interchange on the Outer Ring Road. It will be linked to Trails End Drive in Paradise. There's also a further connection to St. Thomas Line. The Liberals are hoping the federal government will partner on a project to turn this dead end into a corridor that reduces the frustrating gridlock.
Each and every day, people are sitting in that traffic line, and we want them to be able to get to work. We want them to be able to get their kids to school. So it will be a very top priority in terms of our infrastructure plans for the province.
We need another exchange in and out of Paradise, and you know, this is going to be a game changer.
The Liberals used Thursday's announcement to boast about their past investments in roads, bridges, and other infrastructure. And the party is hopeful that this latest promise will mean positive results for these candidates on Election Day. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Paradise.
Well, a senior lawyer is keeping a close eye on all the campaign promises, and he says the party's plans to add more police officers to the province could actually have a negative impact on the justice system. Ariana Kelland reports.
It's a drum senior prosecutor Sean Patton is used to beating. Too many criminal cases with not enough crowns to handle them.
Back in 2012, a busy crown was carrying about 125, max out 150 files. Most lawyers are carrying under 100 files. Now we're asking lawyers to carry triple that.
Last November, the then Justice Minister said he was listening and pledged to hire 18 attorneys over 3 years, starting with 6 this fiscal year.
Obviously, we want to make the system as strong as we possibly can, and putting crowns in place, increasing the number of crowns is an important piece to that.
Important, but has it happened?
Still waiting to fill those permanent positions. I do understand, I believe that some contractual positions with the Crown Attorney's Office may become permanent, but right now as it stands, those permanent positions aren't filled.
And since then, Patton says things have actually gotten worse, particularly in eastern Newfoundland, where he says 5 lawyers have left and about 700 more files have been added.
We've seen people leave because of just the impact of the heavy file load. There's a lot of burnout that we're now experiencing. We're always playing catch up, so even if we fill those 6 positions now, the reality is we're not going to be much further ahead than we were this time last year.
All this as party leaders pledge support for public safety initiatives. So far, the Tories are the only party to mention adding more prosecutors on the campaign trail.
Our police services are stretched too thin.
Both Tories and Liberals are promising to hire more RNC and RCMP officers. The Liberals also pledged to add officer-worn body cameras for the RNC. More cases, more evidence means more work, says Patton.
We need the public to understand that in order for policing to work, you need prosecutors in the office looking at these files.
So where do all 3 parties stand today?
One of the things we're going to do to help fight crime in our communities is to actually increase the number of Crown attorneys that we have in our province.
You resource the agencies you need to make sure that justice is done, but why not start addressing the issues at the root?
We can't slow down justice. We need to make sure the Crown prosecutors are able to do and work on the caseloads that are appropriate for them. And if that's something that we need to look at a little bit harder, other than adding the Crown prosecutors, which of course you said we did, we'll continue to do that.
The Justice Department confirms they do have vacancies on the books, but says that they have been hiring more Crown attorneys and are recruiting more. Not soon enough, according to the association, which says justice suffers the longer the wait goes on. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
It's good to have somebody running against you, and so this time that didn't happen.
Well, coming up, many places across the province are voting for a new mayor today. The candidate in Wabush was acclaimed, though. We'll take a look at what topics are important to that town, including the long-debated prospect of amalgamating with Labrador City.
Well, temperatures a little bit all over the place today, and it all depends on the way the winds are blowing. Northerly winds keeping temperatures very cool along the northeast coast from Bonavista through to the Avalon, only about 7 or 9 degrees today. We've got those westerly winds, though, that are keeping temperatures a little warmer to the west. That is all going to change as we head through the day tomorrow, because those winds are shifting and much warmer temperatures are going to move in. So that's exciting. But for Labrador, you're going to be dealing with a few showers as we continue through the night tonight. And speaking of showers, there has been a whole lot less of them through the month of September. I'll break some of those numbers down for you when I come back a little later.
Hear from party leaders before you cast your vote. The Newfoundland and Labrador Leaders Debate is on Wednesday, October 8th. It'll be 90 minutes, commercial-free, broadcasting live from CBC St. John's. Join me, Carolyn Stokes, and journalists from NTV, The Telegram, and VOCM as we ask party leaders about the issues that matter most to you. Find it on CBC TV, CBC Radio 1, or anywhere you stream CBC News. 7 p.m. in Newfoundland, 6:30 in most of Labrador. Well, another salmon die-off has occurred on the south coast of the island. This time from sea lice, warm surface water, and other environmental conditions, according to Mowi Canada East. More than 10% of 1.6 million salmon at 2 sites on the south coast have died. Mowi says the fish died over a period of weeks, during which they were repeatedly treated with products to remove sea lice. The company has also updated the number of fish that died at 3 sites in Hermitage Bay in August. 671,000 fish died out of a total of 1.7 million farmed salmon. As municipal candidates wait for votes to be counted tonight, those who have been acclaimed are already preparing for their time on council. And that's the case for Gertie Canning, the newly acclaimed mayor of Wabush. Here Now's Daryl Din spoke with Canning about her new role.
Municipal candidates have been hitting the streets, shaking hands, and kissing a few babies along the way, all leading up to Election Day. But that's not the case for Gertie Canning. She has been campaigning because she was acclaimed mayor of Wabush last month, even though she would have liked to run against someone.
It's good to have somebody running against you. And so this time that didn't happen. I'm not sure.
No one heeded your advice this time.
No one heeded my advice this time. I do like the democratic way of, getting elected for a position. But that didn't happen, and I'm ready for the job.
Canning stepped down from her role on council just before the last election to run against then Mayor Ron Barron. But she came up short. At that time, discussions around amalgamation with Labrador City were a hot topic. Canning says she's unsure where she stands on amalgamation herself, and even though conversations on the topic have cooled, she feels residents still deserve a chance to vote on if Wabush should amalgamate with Labrador City.
I don't know if I'm for or against amalgamation, but as you know, I fought when I was on council, I think maybe 6-7 years ago, that I would never take the rights of our residents, the people of Wabush. I would never take the right for them to vote for what they want, because this is not a small issue. This is a big issue that will make changes to our town, and they need to be the ones to let us know what they want.
Soon to be former mayor of Wabush, Ron Barron, spoke with CBC earlier this week to talk about his career in politics. But asked about amalgamation, he said Wabush should move on.
Listen, that's a dead issue. I can show you hundreds of stories, studies, Fraser Institute. It doesn't work.
As Canning steps into the mayoral role, I did ask Barron if he had any tips for Canning.
Well, listen, you're one of 7 people. A lot of people think the mayor has all the say. Well, I can tell you that's not the case. You get to vote just like everybody else. You bring forward ideas, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But at the end of the day, it's council that makes the decision.
And what is Canning looking forward to when she takes the mayor's seat?
I just want to see some things change, and I want to really build on the transparency between council and the key people in our community, like our seniors, our residents, our employees, our businesses. So I'm really, and our new council, of course.
Wabush residents have till 8 p.m. local time to cast their ballot for the new town council. There are 7 candidates vying for 6 seats. Daryl Din, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Well, it was a little bit unsettled through the day today for most of eastern Newfoundland. Nice northerly flow. Things will change though, and temperatures are going to warm up. I'll break it all down for you coming up.
Ashley, we've certainly seen a trend of dry weather over the summer, and September, that trend seems to be continuing.
It absolutely did. Yeah, we've been talking about the pretty much extreme drought conditions that we've been seeing for a good chunk of eastern portions of the island. And yeah, these numbers from September, definitely still seeing that. Particularly through Central and the Avalon. Take a look at these numbers. So we should be seeing somewhere between 100 to 130 millimeters of rain through the month of September, but we nearly saw, in some cases, only a third of that amount of rainfall. Areas like Lanzaloo, though, you picked up about 80.9 millimeters of rain, and typically you would see about 95.9. So you're near where you should be sitting for rainfall totals. But yeah, the 30 to 40 millimeters of rain that fell through Central and the Avalon, that is fairly significant. And if we take a look at the rainfall numbers through the next 5+ days, well, 5 days really, there's not a whole lot of rain in the forecast across the island portion of the province. We'll likely see some rain for Labrador. That rain, it looks like, will come a little later in the week, but still, that's a week away. We still got some time to figure that out. But certainly that lack of rain continuing at least through the first week of October. Taking a look at the temperatures today, much cooler again. Definitely feeling like fall, only seeing a high near 7 to 9 degrees for Bonavista and St. John's. You get away from that, though, in a more westerly flow, and temperatures are a little warmer, 11 to 15 degrees, and even up across Labrador as well, 13 degrees in Lab City. And again, still sitting there right now because your temperatures across Labrador are actually going to warm up. And the reason for that is we've got a ridge of high pressure to the south and much warmer air back to the west, and that is going to move in. This ridge of high pressure is going to sink a little bit further south and bring those westerly winds and even southwesterly winds to parts of the island portion of the province. So that will change things from the cooler temperatures that we've been seeing. For now, we still have some general cloud cover up across Labrador. There's a few showers in the mix there, not a whole lot though. And if I zoom out a little bit, we've got tropical storm, what was Hurricane Imelda down to the south, still there, but it is going to stay well south of us as we head through the night. So now, or through the next couple of days rather. So now post-tropical storm Imelda, still Category 1 though, so still a strong storm, but it is now just out in open water there at 150 km/h winds. And like I said, that is going to stay well south of us. It's going to turn a little bit further north, but still stay out of the way. It won't weaken until we really get into the weekend, where eventually those winds will be topped out around 95 to 100 km/h. Taking a look at the forecast as we head through the night tonight, we may see a few showers for the northern peninsula over the next couple of hours, but then things will clear out, and that will be the story for most of us. The best chance of showers overnight will be in Lab West, and we're looking at those overnight lows sitting somewhere between 6 to 12 degrees across Labrador. Again, some breezy southwesterly winds, and then across the island, the coldest temperatures across the Avalon, about 2 degrees, maybe a little lower in low-lying areas, but overall single digits. And then into tomorrow, a pretty lovely day. Unsettled though up across Labrador. You may see some showers into the afternoon, but nothing super significant. Temperature-wise, this is the big change. Those west and southwesterly winds I was talking about still gusting somewhere between 20 to 40 km/h, but a big change in those temperatures. Mid to upper teens tomorrow. Same thing for Labrador. You're flirting with 20 even in Mary's Harbour at 19 degrees. These temperatures are going to cool back down, warm back up as we get into next week, so a bit of a roller coaster, but I'll have that forecast for you a little later.
Brian Button started his career in municipal politics in 1993 at 23 years old. Now he's looking back on decades and decades of a massive commitment and time in politics in Port aux Basques. But his name is not on the ballot for this upcoming municipal election. It's his time to step away. He sat down with me to talk about his career and what's next. So there's a municipal election coming up, and your name is not on the ballot. So how did you come to make this decision that it was time to step away?
It is a little different this time around. I'm not going to lie. When the elections were called and not thinking about, putting your name on the ballot this time around was a little bit different. But back several months ago, I made a decision that it was time. Someone told me a long time ago, you'll know when the time is right and the time to step away. And I kind of felt that this was the time. It's been a difficult 4 years. I've had lots of challenges and lots of things that have happened differently in this term than in other terms that I've served on council. Each term that you serve comes with challenges, but this time it's been different in many ways, not only having to deal with the situations like Hurricane Fiona and those type things. It's different just, the social media aspect, everything that comes at you now, totally different. You're in a municipal politics where you're on the ground and you live in the community, and your daily activities is to go around the community as well. And that becomes hard on you, and it becomes hard on your family, especially, during the times where we did have our challenges. And so when the time came around, and I thought about it more and more over the last year, had many discussions with my family. My family was kind of encouraging me, this is enough. And, I've been at it, in 1993 I ran, and at that time I was just, while I was on the election, I was just turning 23 years old. And I've turned 55 a couple of days ago, and I said, you know what, my life has been dedicated to public life and volunteer life and community life, and it's time to spend some time and quality time with family life.
And of course, speaking of challenges, what did you learn from Hurricane Fiona?
Fiona was a tough one. We opened up the meeting the other night, our last meeting, and I wanted to open up with recognizing, the fact the anniversary date was there, was the night before. Councillors were around the table on our last meeting to have our last meeting, but 3 years ago we were at the town hall trying to prepare for what was going to be life-changing for a lot of people. The people involved, it was the most life-changing. For us, it was also life-changing because all the things that we thought we would do in a municipal term and as councillors, it changed overnight. We were now working a disaster. For most of us, it was the first time. We've done a lot of simulations. I know over the years I've been involved in, we've done tabletop exercises and we've done all these things, but this was the real deal. And this was people's lives. There's many nights that, like a lot of the people, I shed the same tears that other people shed. Everyone's life was shifted.
Right, so let's talk a little bit about your marvelous send-off. You had a birthday, you had your very last council meeting. How did it feel to celebrate your career that way?
It was pretty emotional. It was emotional for me because I said in the council meeting, and I'll say here, I grew up in a political family. My family, my father was a municipal councillor. His pictures are on the wall, on the same walls that my pictures are on now. And when I was a kid, besides hockey, I was watching politics all the time. And politics was on the TV. And if there was an election on the go, I stayed up late to see what the results right across the country was. And if it was a federal election or whatever. And I was involved. And I said the other night, I wasn't an A student in school by no means. But when it came to one of the subjects I did in high school was democracy. I could ace that class. Nice. I was the smart guy in that class. Yeah. And going into the last meeting, all these thoughts of, I always wanted to step up to do this, and I got the opportunity, thanks to the people. The people put me there, and they gave me an opportunity to fulfill a lifetime dream.
Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Former politicians and bureaucrats, and now a senator appointed during Harper's tenure, are criticizing the province's MOU with Hydro-Quebec. Senator David Wells is calling for an independent review of the agreement to examine pricing, ownership stakes, and energy market alternatives. Senator Wells says key details remain unclear. He spoke with On the Go host Chrissy Holmes.
One of the key things for me when I started to dive in is the granting of 40% ownership to Hydro-Quebec, which is the Quebec government. We've already seen that we've granted 34.2% under the 1969 deal for the Upper Churchill. So even when the pricing contract that takes us to 2041 ends, and we get fair market value for our resource, Hydro-Quebec will still own 34%, more than 1/3 of the Upper Churchill. And now on the Gull Island project, they will own in perpetuity 40%, and I don't think that's right.
Why raise doubt and question the MOU now during an election?
You know, that's a good question. So if this was a deal that had an endpoint that did not include 40% ownership of what is owned by Newfoundland and Labrador, if it didn't include 40% ownership forever, that's forever, then maybe I'd have less doubt. Maybe if we had even a long-term contract at fair market value, which we don't. This is not a long-term contract. It's an MOU, which suggests that perhaps Newfoundland and Labrador won't be the primary beneficiary of our resource. The other thing I'd point out, and this is for, I'm born and raised in Newfoundland. I lived in Labrador for a time. We see maps coming out of the government of Quebec that have erased the line between Labrador and Quebec. And it's a small irritant, and we don't get too beat up about it. But now, here we have a deal on the table that actually grants some of our land. And it's not just the Gull Island project, but it's 100 kilometers down as well, granting 40% of that to Hydro-Quebec. I have a problem with that, especially if there are alternatives that make more sense.
We've heard concerns from one of the groups of 9, those that say yay, the ones in favor of this, who fear that Quebec, like tech companies, also have other options that they may be looking toward right now. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? That if we do wait too long, that $225 billion could be gonzo.
Maybe that $225 billion could be $500 billion. Maybe it could be a long-term contract that doesn't grant any ownership, but just grants the electricity at whatever the market rate is. Like, yeah, for sure, $225 billion is a lot of money. But maybe we could do better, and I haven't seen any assessment, any independent assessment, any analysis that's even looked at that, let alone compares it side by side with the MOU. But when I think about this deal, I think Newfoundland and Labrador could do much better given the emerging technologies that require electricity and require cooling, as these large data centers require. And right now in the United States, one of their difficulties is using essentially air conditioning units to cool. But if we have the Churchill River, which is a cold water river, and we had data centers near the source of the electricity, renewable electricity that's going to run forever, that we own 100%, then I think the benefit to Newfoundland and Labrador is much greater in that scenario than what's proposed in the MOU.
Definitely a lot of demand, but I mean, just to clarify, are you suggesting that big tech could be an alternative for Newfoundland and Labrador instead of Hydro-Quebec?
in some ways, they're the perfect alternative. They need the power. It's green, clean energy, which obviously they'd be supportive of. They're investing, I read one article yesterday, the group of companies, they're investing over $100 billion in new electrification resource. So that tells me that, you know, well, we already know the demand is there. The resources are there to fund it. And perhaps we don't have to give up any of the ownership if we can strike a deal.
There's so much talk about the MOU and, like I say, the differing opinions about it. What's the risk with all of this noise about what to make of the MOU right now for the average resident of Newfoundland and Labrador?
So I'll boil it down to this. Are we willing, and is it the right thing to give up 40% of what we own 100% of now, sell the power for less than market value, and then pay, you know, and that would be forever. That would be forever. That's a risk. And you know what? If the MOU and the agreement that might come out of the MOU is the best thing ever, then let a true independent assessment of that decide that. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we've looked at the other options that are on the table that don't include Hydro-Quebec, that just include Newfoundland and Labrador selling directly to the market for fair market value.
Liberal leader John Hogan was asked about Senator Wells' comments and criticisms about the MOU on the campaign trail today. He says Wells could be opposed to the project for political reasons.
So I would say that there was already independent input into that. I will also say I hope that he watched the numerous days in the House of Assembly, which we've never seen before for any project or any issue in the history of this province. We spent a lot of time giving all members of the House of Assembly, government members and opposition members, the opportunity to ask questions and to get answers from not only the architects of the deal, but from experts as well who weighed in, independent experts. It's been a long time since then. It's been almost 9 months. So people who said that they didn't have the opportunity and enough time over the course of those 4 days still haven't said how they feel about this project. So I think that's very important. And I think the other important part is there's a lot of people politically who are coming out against this. The people that are coming out for it don't have political stripes. There's business leaders who've signed on publicly to say this is a good deal who don't have political stripes. So be very careful of people who are against this project, because I would suggest it might very well be for political reasons.
Turning our attention overseas now to 3 people from this province who are on a flotilla to Gaza. Their vessel is currently at sea near Athens. As they continue their voyage, a separate flotilla carrying Greta Thunberg has been intercepted, and activists on board are being deported. CBC News Network reached the 3 activists from this province and asked for their reaction to the situation.
We're feeling okay. I mean, that was definitely something that, unfortunately, as wrong as it is, it was very much something that was anticipated, expected. We've seen the extreme violence of Israel over the last 2 years, long before that as well. So it's something that was anticipated. It was something that was discussed before we embarked on this particular vessel, knowing that the Samud was moving ahead of us, that we would be probably witnessing what happened to them as we were continuing our journey towards Gaza. So yeah, we're definitely concerned by it, but not swayed in what we're doing about in any way. I think it's really important to challenge the idea that this mission is inherently risky or dangerous. It certainly is, but it doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be, because as Sadie pointed out, what we're doing is on the right side of international law. We have a right to engage in this activity. Palestinians have a right to receive people at their shores. And Israel is acting inappropriately and in violation of international law when they intercept these vessels and they attack these vessels. And so I think that's an important thing to keep in mind.
Is it possible for you also to describe for our viewers and for our audience what specifically it is that you will be bringing, and how that sort of list was created, how you are intending to engage once you arrive at your destination? So what's being carried and what the process will look like from here on?
So the Conscience is primarily a mission concerned with medics and journalists, so doctors and journalists, because Israel has been deliberately targeting doctors and journalists in Palestine, killing them, abducting them, disappearing them, torturing them, etc., which is a violation of international law and cruel and inhumane. And so we are bringing journalists and doctors who are standing in solidarity with their comrades and colleagues, as well as some other, medical supplies, aid, etc. But we really want to highlight the way that Israel has been targeting doctors, journalists, and people delivering humanitarian aid.
In other news, protective gear comes in all shapes and sizes. A new piece of equipment being developed incorporates smart technology, camouflaged by the clothing it zips into. The CBC's John Ngala has the story.
What if a pair of pants could soften the blow from a fall? That's exactly what these smart pants are for. They're intelligent wearable trousers with built-in sensors and an airbag that scan a person's movement in real time, so when a fall is about to happen, the airbag inflates to protect the user from the impact.
Our goal, of course, is to reduce injuries caused by falls. That's like the catch-all goal. My personal goal is to save at least one life, right?
The garment is called Air Secure. The way the technology works is, once this membrane is zipped into the pants, the part that detects when you're about to fall triggers this cartridge that then inflates.
And fills this whole membrane here, and this wraps around you on your waist, and you are cushioned when you hit the ground.
So something like this.
It's funny because, you're sure if you fall, you have protection. So it was a great feeling to know that. Yeah.
This expert says 50 to 60% of his patients come in because of falls. He says it's too early to know if the product will help decrease hospital visits among seniors.
I don't think we have the data on the inflatable hip protectors yet. I can tell you that there's some data on the hip protectors that are used in nursing homes. There have been shown to be some decreased rate of fractures.
But Hawk says he's optimistic.
So I'm actually quite excited to see how AI can help our aging population. I think there is a lot of potential there, and I'm quite intrigued by the opportunities that await us in terms of falls prevention.
The goal is to reduce the fear of falling and get people back, mobile, which is super important to keep that independence as you age.
Boljuk says the product is being piloted and that with the help of investors, the pants are expected to hit the market next year. John Ngala, CBC News, Montreal.
Time for a look at the long-range forecast now, and I'm going to skip ahead to the weekend.
We are. Temperatures are going to be a little bit of a roller coaster. All of us are going to see some mild temperatures as we head through tomorrow, and then temperatures will drop through parts of the weekend anyway. Let's take a look at what's going to happen as we get through our Saturday. So there's a chance that we'll see a few showers in the morning. They'll be very scattered and isolated, or very isolated rather, across the island, but the chance is still there. Through central, you'll see that into the afternoon. And then late day, we'll likely see some showers across the Avalon. So overall, the day's pretty decent at times for a good chunk of the island, and same thing up across Labrador, although your temperatures are going to drop back down. So you're back down to the single digits for most, the exception being the upper Lake Melville area and along the Strait. Your temperatures should top off around 11 degrees through the day. Northern Peninsula still in the single digits, so you'll see a drop. And then temperatures across the island, the rest of the island will be somewhere between 14 to 17 degrees through the afternoon. Now, as we head into Sunday, that shower activity will continue through most of the night, and then we'll see some clearing skies for your first part of Sunday morning. Some more shower activity expected in Lab West into the afternoon. And then most of us will, across the province, will just be seeing a mix of sun and cloud through the day. Then things will get a bit more unsettled as we head into the evening and overnight hours. So there is a chance again that we will see some showers. But again, nothing significant by any means, just enough to wet the pavement. But we are looking at temperatures along the northeast coast dropping back down, and you know what that means. Winds will shift. So we're looking at daytime highs between 7 to 9 degrees. Away from that, though, west coast, south coast between 11 and 12 degrees. And then for Labrador overall, somewhere between 9 to 12 as well. That will change, though, again, as we head into next week. So that roller coaster ride, definitely a thing. By the time we get into Monday, temperatures will be back into the teens just barely. But by Tuesday, definitely signaling, the forecast anyway, signaling a warm up. Should be back into the mid-teens, mid to upper teens, really. And even close to the 20-degree mark for central and western Newfoundland. 20 degrees for central for sure. Well, that's what the forecast is for now. But look at that nice stretch of weather. Again, dry, but still fairly nice. And overnight lows will be fairly chilly Sunday night, and then rebounding for Monday. And western Newfoundland, pretty much the same forecast, although things look a little bit more unsettled for you. Same thing for eastern, same things for Labrador, rather. Your temperatures likely reaching the 20-degree mark in the east. You're looking at some shower chances into the middle of the week, and then unsettled for western Labrador as well. Our weather photo of the day. A beautiful shot in Middle Cove on the beach there. Some beautiful wave action there. Thank you so much to Christopher for that photo. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them away. You can share them to our Facebook page or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that's a great shot, Christopher. Thank you so much for that. And Ashley, 20-degree days in the first week of October. My goodness.
Yeah, so we typically add one over the course of the climate that they've been measuring. We typically add one more day in October.
Interesting.
To the 20-degree mark. So we'll see if it happens. And if it does, it brings us to 82 times we've reached the 20-degree mark in St. John's.
And we've already broken the record.
Already broke the record. So we're just adding to it.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.